The church cares, and so does the St. Raymond Anonymous Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. Hi, I'm Anne DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years. Whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities, we've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Good evening. Welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. My name is Anne DeSantis. It's great to be here. I have a wonderful guest for you this evening. His name is Sam Paranzino, and I want to welcome you, Sam. Thank you so much for joining me on Journeys in Faith.
Thank you, Anne. It's glad to be here.
Yes,
I know we met for a mutual friend, and I'm glad we connected.
That's right. I want to make a shout out to him. He's actually been a guest on our shows before, Bob Charger. So thank you, Bob, for this connection. Let's start out with you, Sam. Tell us a little bit about your life, faith, and family. Love to hear more.
I was born in Philadelphia, conservative parents. I'm the third child. Very unique situation. My parents had me. They were both 43 years old. And so I was definitely a mistake. We lived in the St. Thomas Aquinas area. That's where I received all my sacraments. My parents were married there. My grandmother migrated in that area. She went to St. Thomas Church every day. I became very involved in the parish along with my family. I became an altar boy there, and we were very connected to that parish. It almost looked like a cathedral. I take a lot of friends there today, and it's a beautiful, beautiful church. I grew up in a neighborhood which was all based around what parish you lived in. We were all from St. Thomas. A lot of my friends, we played sports for St. Thomas, and we were altar boys and choir boys. And one of the unique things I remember growing up is I lived right around the corner from the church, and my grandmother actually lived on the other side on Chadwick Street, while I lived on Watkins Street. And the droves of people going to masses, you knew it was Sunday, because when you went out of my house, or if I went on my step, they call it stoop or step, I would see just droves and packs of people just heading to church. You knew it was Sunday. And back then, the parishes were very strong. The Philadelphia area has over 200, and right now I know they have over 200 parishes. Maybe back then there might have been over 300, because I know they've closed a lot in the Philadelphia area. So everyone was identified back in the day by what parish you were from. The closest parish to me was St. Monica, and we competed with them in sports a lot. And St. Edmunds was probably the other east side of us. I know in New Jersey, when I talk to my New Jersey and North Jersey friends, everyone's identified by what exit, what turnpike, what exit are you from? And I go to New York a lot, so when I pass all the exits, I laugh, because that's kind of how you're identified in New Jersey. What exit are you? In Philadelphia area, growing up as a kid, and even today, it's what parish are you from? but I was always connected to St. Thomas until the 80s. Unfortunately, it was a middle class area, and the neighborhood started declining. A lot of people moved to the suburbs. A lot of people moved to South Jersey, and a lot of the parishes in the cities, started to close and just became weaker and weaker. But I always had a connection to St. Thomas. Even when I moved out of the area, I moved closer to the stadiums, and I still went back to St. Thomas because there was, for some reason, a connection there. When your parents are from there, your grandparents went there, you received all your sacraments there. It just seemed, you're an altar boy there. It just seemed like a connection. St. Thomas was over 100 years old. They had an anniversary, 20 something years ago, which I went to. What used to why I was always curious as a kid is when I was in church, an altar boy or a parishioner, I would look up and every stained glass had an Irish name on there. But I was in an Italian neighborhood. So I never understood that. Every stained glass had an Irish name. And I'm like, well, if this is an Italian parish and everybody supports the church, how come no Italian names up there? Well, I didn't realize, and as you go back to the Philadelphia history, that the Irish were here first and predominantly the Italians came after, 100 years after so forth. And most of the ethnic makeup of that parish was initially Irish. And then it became Italian, as my grandparents, migrated in that area. That's why the stained glass, the church being over 120 something years old, has all Irish names on the in memory of on all the stained glass. But as I was mentioning, back in 1980, around that time, I watched the neighborhood where I grew up decline. Unfortunately, it was very sad. And eventually I moved out of that parish, and my mom was actually robbed a few times going to church, and we moved my mom in with me near in another section of Philly. But I still went back there, and the last 20 years, I would say the church really grew. The church grew. What I meant by that is it was initially a white working class family, and had a connected school, St. Thomas, and they never closed St. Thomas when they were looking around all the cities, parishes to close, because St. Thomas, they opened it up, St. Thomas Aquinas, to all the ethnic groups in the city. So you didn't have to live in that geographical area to belong in St. Thomas. It's now a multicultural parish.
Wow.
Vietnamese, Indonesians, Philippines, Latins, they kept the church growing. And I actually was on WHYY. They interviewed me several years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, around when the Pope was coming, because I became very active in the parish again when the Pope was coming with Father Shields. I volunteered to help out with, he had the Archbishop of Alabama and several, like 50 or 60 parishioners from Alabama with that specific parish coming to St. Thomas. And we were looking for houses for them to stay when the Pope was coming. So I volunteered, and I was so amazed by how full the church was with all these multicultural people. It was like remember when I told you when I was a kid growing up, I should see droves and droves of people going to church. Well, that kind of declined over the years, and then I moved in 1980, and now I don't see anybody on Sunday walking. I don't see that anymore. But with St. Thomas, I walked in there one time. I didn't go there for a long period of time. I walked in there to a Latin mass, and every pew was full. It's like, oh, how come this is happening in St. Thomas as opposed to the other churches? They're closing on, and one of the reasons for that is they open the boundaries, and it's a multicultural parish. And I was so impressed with that because they're keeping it going. And so that made me happy, because that's where, that's what I relate to in Catholicism, and being an altar boy, and my family history is that parish. So But also it takes somebody else to keep a parish going, and that's the priest. And Father Shields, has a special gift with immigrants. He speaks Spanish. He's Irish, and he kept the immigrants to keep this Catholic faith alive in Philly, and he just really had that church growing. And I'm still impressed with Father Shields when I used to listen to his sermons, and I was like, now I know why. It's the priest, it's the multicultural family. You know, I don't know how long you've been, Catholic. I don't know how old you are, but did you know I don't know if you know there's 4 wise men. When I was with Father Shields, around Christmas, and I'm 50 something years old, and I'm listening to a sermon around Christmas. He's like, yeah, and he gave this whole sermon about the 4th wise man. And I walked out of church with my mouth dropped. I had to go home. I had to do research. There was a movie, Martin Sheen plays him. There was a 4th wise man who was most important person that was late getting to connect with the other wise men. And he wound up doing all these charitable things to find Jesus. And it took him 30 something years, and he finally found Jesus when he was on the cross. And he did all these charitable things through those 35 years. He was an astronomer. And back then there was always conflict between theologians and astronomers. And his father was a king, and his father let him go. And he said, I'm going to let one of my servants come with you. And if my father comes back safe, you'll be free. Well, 35 years it took him. He still didn't find Jesus. And he finally found him. But doing that whole story, I'm going to tell you the punchline, is he did God's works the whole 30 something years. So that was like an excellent. So Father Shields Monsignor Shields rather is a special man for that parish. And I did get involved with St. Thomas when the church was when the Pope was coming, and tried to help them the best I can with the parties they had and the special masses and stuff like that. So I wanted to just say one thing. I was at a meeting with all multicultural. I was the only American there, and they're all women, and they're preparing for the party for the people coming from Alabama. And African American woman next to me, Deidre, said, all the organizations I belong to, I'm a Big Brother, Men of Malvern, St. Thomas Aquinas, all these, and I don't have no tickets to see the Pope. Everybody I know has tickets to see the Pope. And I'm there as a volunteer, and and she looks at me and she says, just wait a minute. And about 2 minutes later, she goes in her handbag and she hands me 2 tickets to see the Pope.
Amazing.
Yeah. So when you do volunteer work and charitable stuff, like I was a Big Brother, and when I was younger, I was a Big Brother. I was a Big Brother, and things come back. Things do come back. If God's works, things do come back, and you don't do it for that, but you'd be surprised. I have a lot of testimonials to tell you about Malvern and different things like that. But
yes, we'll do that when we come back. Definitely. Yeah. Tell us, where is, just for those viewers, some viewers are from this area where we are, the Philadelphia area, greater Philadelphia area. Some are way outside or in different parts of the country. Where is St. Thomas located for those people that may want to visit it sometime? Can you give us?
It's at 17th of Mars in Philadelphia. Is in the corner of 17th of Mars. Beautiful building. When you go in there, you actually think you're at the cathedral. I would say the same architects that worked on the cathedral in Philadelphia were probably the same that worked. And I just had a communion breakfast there, 2 or 3 of them in the last 10 years for my group that I belong to, which I'll talk about later. And everyone was astonished. They all called me and said, "Oh, what a beautiful parish." And Father Shields, who just recently retired, had some health issues. I know that he was so inviting to my friends. I brought over 100 men there for a mass, and he made us feel so comfortable. And it's just, that has to go along with the community as well. I mean, you need a good leader.
Absolutely.
So Monsignor Shields, I pray for him all the time. He was he's still alive, but he's retired. When he was very active, he just gave a mass like no one else,
We'll pray for the repose, or will you say he's alive still? He's just retired. So
yes,
we'll definitely keep him in prayers and thank him for his beautiful ministry. Now, we do
Yep.
have to take a short break. So just give us a few minutes. We'll be right back here on Journeys in Faith with Sam Paranzino.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Journeys in Faith. Thank you so much for joining us here. My guest is Sam Paranzino, and during the first half of the show, he talked about his faith and about St. Thomas Church, where he grew up, and a lot of other great facts about not only himself, but about the church in Philadelphia and what it was like growing up where he was from, and how the church just had such a major impact. And your role, Sam, your role in helping to connect with your church and bringing other people there. So let's continue the discussion. And you are part of the Men of Malvern. Now, the Malvern Retreat House is located in Malvern, PA. For those who aren't familiar, it's a beautiful place. I've been there for retreats before. So
Great.
First, let's start out. Tell us about that, and tell us about the retreat house itself too.
How I got invited to go to the Men of Malvern is I talked about my parents being conservative Catholics growing up in the city, and very faithful. They both said the rosary every night. They also had siblings. They came from big families, and I was very close to my mother's brothers. And my mother's one brother, Frank, to come and see his older sister all the time, and he asked me to go to the retreat maybe once or twice. And then one time I really listened to him and took it seriously. I was in my early 20s, so I had a lot going on. I was playing music, I was working, I was doing a lot of things at that point. And I listened to my uncle, and he really was serious one time. He sat down with me, he says, "No, I'm really serious. I want you to come to Malvern Retreat House." And I heard retreat, and I said, "Oh, I got to pray for the entire weekend and kneel." That's the first thing you think about is, when you're 22 years old. But anyhow, I went with him, and it was the most wonderful experience I ever had. There was over 200, and at that point, our group was large. It was about 300 men in our Pacific group, and everyone was welcoming. Everyone was a sinner. Everyone there was a sinner, and that's one of the things they made sure that you knew about. Like, we're all sinners, and we're all here.
That's right.
And we're reconciling. We're praying for something. Praying for each other, and I never stopped going. I didn't go one time, and that was to stay by my mom's bedside at Jefferson Hospital. And the captain of our retreat house said, "Well, we'll be praying for you and your mother," and they did. And my mom was supposed to pass that weekend, and she lived another 2 years. So
Praise God.
I don't know if there was those 300 men praying for her, but it was something. So I've been going for a long time, and my uncle saw how involved I got with Malvern, and he was a recruiter. He really didn't want to be a recruiter. He wasn't as outgoing as I was, and wasn't involved in a lot of organizations like I was. But I started bringing some friends, and we placed roles. He made me a recruiter. And I became an associate captain in a matter of a few years. And I've been associate captain over 35 years in a group. I've also served on the retreat committee. The retreat committee is a group of men who report at Malvern, and we report to the board of things that happen during our retreat. Our specific group is called the Trinopolian Group. The Trinopolian Group was formed over 75 years ago. It was 12 men who went to retreat, and they didn't know what to name their group. And as they were deciding, each weekend's a different group. Our weekend usually goes to St. Joseph weekend, third weekend of March. So this particular group 75 years ago didn't know what to name their group. And unfortunately, they chose that name, which is very hard to say, very hard to spell. It's a Latin word, and what it means is upper room. So there was 12 men sitting, deciding what name they should name their group. And a priest said to them, "You're 12 men, 12 apostles. The upper room is where Jesus had the Last Supper. Why don't you have the Latin word for that is trinoplium." So that's the name of our group. So that's been our name.
Trinoplium.
Yeah, every trinoplium. I always say it wrong. I always get crucified for that. But I've been going there since I was 23. I've been going there for 40 years. I received the Sullivan Award about 5 years ago, the John Sullivan Award, and that's for bringing so many men out. I've asked over 350 men to go to Malvern. I've only taken over 100 men out there. So I'm still working on them 200 plus men to see if they'll come out. And you'll be surprised. One testimonial is I asked a neighbor for 13 years to come to retreat. Every year I used to go, where are you going this weekend? I'm going to retreat. You want to come? No. You want to come? No. Well, this one year, he said yes. And he came to retreat. And the priest he talked to at retreat, sometimes you could have a one-on-one. That's a la carte at retreat. So you only have one obligation the entire weekend, which is adoration. And that's the only obligation you have. So that 20 minutes, you have to be somewhere at that entire weekend. The rest of the weekend is a la carte. They have all types of seminars. They have Stations of the Cross. They have the Rosary. They have masses. You could do whatever you want that weekend. And it's your weekend, but you only have to do adoration. Anyhow, this gentleman who was a neighbor thanked me 100 times, followed the priest in Cherry Hill that he spoke to and went to his mass the next Sunday, and couldn't wait to go the following year. And it's all he talked about.
What a great story.
So, yeah, there's about 5 or 6. We don't have enough time to tell you about all the testimonials, but a lot. My one friend I took, I was in, as I told you, I was in a lot of organizations: South Philadelphia String Band, Big Brother or Sister, Marconi Bocce League, Knights of Columbus. So I get to ask a lot of people, but it's sad. The most of the time people go is when they have hardship, and when life is going good, when everything's in check. People don't want to take a weekend and give God one weekend out of 52 weekends. That's why I tell people, I just give them 1 week. I mean, I try to go to church as much as I can. Again, I'm a sinner, but I try to go to church as much as I can. I'm going to say about 85% of the year, but I am lazy like everyone else. But the one thing when I go to church, and I mean, when I go to retreat and I go to adoration, I make sure no matter what's going on in my life, that I go to retreat, because I at least give God that entire weekend, whether good things are happening in my life or bad. So when good things are happening, I go there not to reconcile, but I go there to thank for what I have and what's going on in life. So we have to go to thank as well. Because I was as well, I know one friend, he went when he had cancer. I even took a Jewish friend of mine, believe it or not. He just didn't receive the sacraments, but he went to the lectures.
Came
about
along.
the Old Testament. Yeah. But I took a friend that couldn't have children. He went to retreat, he had triplets.
Oh,
I took I took a friend who beat cancer. I took a friend who lost a child. I took a friend who lost his parents. Everyone has hardships, and for them, those people, it's for some reason they're easier to ask to go to retreat. But when things are going great in someone's life, they're the hard people to bring to retreat.
Yeah,
Because,
it really makes sense. And I
it's-
think even with evangelizing, it's the same way.
Right.
Yes.
So reconciliation is important, but the thanking part I feel, has become such a part, because when things were going good, I got to make sure I go to thank as well for what I have.
Amen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So currently, Malvern, the membership in our specific group, a lot of the men are getting older. So I'm doing a lot of recruiting lately. And we have a communion breakfast every year, which I run. And that particular breakfast, we pick a specific parish we go to. And then it's something you can bring your family, your wife, your girlfriend, your children, and you show them, to meet the other men that you go to this retreat with. And also, it's a good segue who you want to bring to somebody to retreat, to tell them to come to the breakfast, and they see how everyone receives them. And then they usually, oh, I already met everybody. I'm going to go to retreat. But I now moved to the South Jersey area the last couple of years, and I belong to a church called Saint Gianna. And again, you're going to think that, well, this can't be happening everywhere you go. But there's a priest there, Father Montebello. I've could tell you a quick story. My first couple months, I volunteered to have my feet washed. And that was something I never seen before in the city, that priest did that. The cleansing of the feet, like
Holy Thursday, right?
yes, like Jesus did to the apostles, and I thought that was great. And it decorates the church unbelievably. And Stations of the Cross he actually has a life-size Jesus in a glass case, which he goes around the neighborhood. During the pandemic, this priest went in a helicopter and blessed the neighborhood. But one day I was telling him, one day I was listening to a sermon, and here we go, another Father Shields. And he's talking about St. John the Baptist, and he's saying how great St. John the Baptist and forgiving he was, and all this stuff. And again, I'm a sinner. I'm not perfect. I didn't talk to my brother in 20 years. I have a brother 17 years older than me. I'm not proud to say that. I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm telling you because I'm telling you who I am.
Yes.
And I'm listening to Father, and he's talking about how forgiven St. John the Baptist was. I go home, and his youngest son is trying to reach out to me. Now, I moved out of St. Thomas. I moved out of the South Philadelphia area. I moved out of my other shore area, and I moved down this one area in Northfield now, where I live. And so his son was trying to get in touch with me. Eventually, he did. I talked to my brother the next day after this sermon, and I talked to my brother, and we never missed a beat. Never talked about what we had a disagreement about. We never missed a beat. We talk every day now. My brother's 17 years older than me. He's not well. He's flew to visit me from Florida 3 times to my new house here. And we bring back a lot of old times, a lot of St. Thomas neighborhood. Even though we were so far apart, it was still the same culture, the same things going on. He went through the same thing I did in the same community of St. Thomas. The bottom line is, I told Father the following week after Mass, I told him what happened. He said, see how St. Thomas, see how John the Baptist, you forgave him. You didn't miss a beat. I said, yeah. And the other thing I want to tell you, Father, is that my brother's name is John. So I was told that he actually told that story at the next couple sermons, but
good homily.
Yes. As far as testimonials, as far as Malvern is concerned, we could be here all day.
Yes.
So many good things have come out of that place. That is a special place. It has been there for many, many, many years. It's been built since 1912. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men from 50 states came there. 10 years ago, you said you went there. 10 years ago,
Yes.
They built a life center. They now have women retreats there. They now have high schools going there. And I would like to invite everyone that listens to this to come out. And if they need to get in touch with me, there's no problem. Just contact Men of Malvern, and they have my information, and I'll be glad to have them come out with our group. I still ask people recently. At our church, I had a spaghetti dinner 6 months ago. So I went, and as we're making the spaghetti, 5 or 6 guys are making the gravy, and I'm talking to this one gentleman. I told him about Malvern, and I told him about my brother, and I said, "What? You're not in this parish? Why do you live at Summers Point? This isn't your name." He goes, "Oh, I was driving one day, and I came and listened to his father's sermon, and my wife and I love him so much, we come back." This priest has people coming from all over the South Jersey area, so he's special, like Father Shield. Father Shield is special to the immigrants, and this priest Montebello is to the community just in the same way. When I go to his Mass, I feel like I told Father many times, I don't need to go to Rome. I feel like I'm in Rome. You have 5 altar boys and 5 altar girls on the altar. You have 2 deacons. When I look at the altar, I feel like I'm in Rome. He has the mayor carrying a cross in an outfit. I mean, in an environment. So it's another special place that I just moved to. So I'm enjoying that.
God
as well.
is taking care of you, isn't he?
Yeah, but the people that I've asked at this spaghetti dinner, I did ask a couple people, and the one gentleman I was talking to, hasn't talked to his brother in the last 10 years. And I was talking to him and I was like, well, maybe you'll call your brother when you go home, so there's people out there with all the same problems.
That's
And
right. That's right. What a
yeah,
witness, though. I love that story. And I remember that when we had our initial phone call to set up this interview, you told me that story, and I was just really blown away by it and blessed by what happened between you and your brother and how God worked there. So, yeah, this has been a wonderful
does work.
program with you. Now, do you have
Thank
any
you.
final words before we end? We're coming toward the close of the show. I didn't know if you had any final words.
Well, I just want to thank you for all your work that you do, because I want to acknowledge you. I mean, I was glad to come on here and speak to you and mention Retreat in Malvern and talk about myself a little bit, about, growing up as a Catholic. But I want to thank you for all. That's my final words, is to thank you for all that you're doing and your podcast and you reaching out to everyone and, keeping the faith growing, because our faith has issues. 50% of the babies that are born in Catholic hospitals are not being baptized. And we don't know that. The average person doesn't know that. So they're part of statistics I got when I was on the retreat committee group to learn about what's going out there culturally, that we could get more people to continue to come to Malvern. Like, who do we reach out to? So people like you that are keeping the faith going, your theology. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a professor. I'm just an average Joe.
A person of faith. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but people like you, I just wanted to take my time to thank you, because you're the one that's keeping a lot of our faith going.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. It's an honor to have you here on the show, and also to thank our friend Bob Charger for the introduction. Yes. So God bless you, Sam. God bless you for all that you do. And I do encourage everyone to check out the Malvern Retreat House, and especially the Men of Malvern. You could probably even Google that and find out more and connect with Sam Paranzino. God bless everyone, and we'll see you all here next week on Journeys in Faith on Fiat Ministry Network. See you then.
Thank you, Anne. Bye-bye.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.